clearly he is. But to answer your question,
Dude, man.
I think it's gonna.
I didn't say he wasn't active. I'm
What?
saying he's not influenced in the music industry because
Okay,
that
so
was
you
your
said that.
question. Okay, okay, fine.
I said, how would he? How would he?
Go ahead.
I thought. I thought that's what you. I thought that's what you alluded to. He's not. He doesn't do music anymore. He does
He's
more
not active
philanthropy.
in
Not
music.
philanthropy,
Yeah, he's
but
not big on
more.
the charts.
That's right.
He's not. But even that song that
Okay.
you quoted right now that you Googled, it's not a big song on the charts. I've never heard of it. I don't think you have.
Yeah.
But I was pulled
Yeah.
exactly.
But,
So that's the point. Like
but
he's
my
not
point is, he's still doing music. He's still
okay.
doing. That's all I was
Fine.
just
You
trying to
win the
say.
argument,
You were
Kevin. Yes,
kind of
he's
alluding. He
doing
wasn't
music.
doing
He's
music.
doing music. Yeah, he's doing music.
I'm
Okay.
just.
He's doing
I'm
music.
not trying to win an argument. I'm
No,
just trying
you
to make
are.
sure that we're on the
That's
same
clearly
page.
what you're trying to do to win the argument. Okay, you win. He's doing music. Yes, he's into music.
I don't care.
P. Diddy is not guilty, at least on 3 of the 5 charges. He might not spend any time in jail. That might happen, y'all. Stephen A. Smith Show in the house, special edition. Let's go.
All right. So basically, that's it. Surprisingly enough, P. Diddy was found not guilty on all of the major convictions, and he was found on the lesser convictions. And I think one of the things a lot of people were saying were those lesser convictions wouldn't even amounted to a case really against him,
Yeah.
given his stature, given his magnitude. So what happened here? Maybe a quick question to you, Jai. Do you think that the Crown or the prosecutors fumbled this? Or do you think it was all about just, what did they say? The truth will prevail and he's truly innocent. That's why, I
Yeah.
think we kind of know he's not fully innocent.
Yeah.
But what are your quick thoughts immediately?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of overreaching. RICO is basically an organized crime. It's racketeering. That's all it is. That's what they use to convict people like, I think it was the Gambino family or some mob bosses, right? That's what they use. It's organized crime. But there was nothing related to the trial, at least from the bit that I read and I saw, nothing related to him organizing some kind of criminal activities. Fine, there were some maybe immoral or drug sex parties or just which were kind of disturbing, but it's not necessarily mob activity. He has some bad behaviors, he's a freak, but not a criminal enterprise. And that's what I think happened, and which is why they weren't able to prove their case. So my point is, if they knew this from the get-go, because these are seasoned lawyers, these are not like lawyers off the street, they're federal prosecutors. It begs the question, like, why did they go along with this? I don't know what they were thinking, but their case wasn't strong from the get-go, and this is what was echoed by a lot of people online and famous podcasters and people who had their opinions. They all said the same things. These are people that followed the criminal case.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you, and I agree with you in terms of the RICO thing. Like, it's meant for mobs and things, and I think that definitely is something that I think they probably made a mistake because it doesn't doesn't make sense, right? RICO is racketeering, and just your whole criminal enterprise is predicated on victims and drugs, and the key word is enterprise. Enterprise, and usually an enterprise is a non-human entity that's making money. Like the mobsters, they deal with drugs and strip clubs and laundering money and things like
Gambling,
that, and
illegal,
that's RICO.
Yep, yep.
That's right. That's RICO. From what it looked like, this is just a freaky dude. He's just one guy.
Yep.
And he is just really rich, and this is personal life. And I think that's really where they dropped the ball. It was crazy. Cassie, for what it's worth, I do side with the side of Cassie, but I think the challenge is that, how are you going to be a victim, but you're loving all the money that he's giving you, right? And you're willfully wanting to do it. And the text messages of, "Yeah, let's do it. When's the next time we're going to have the freak off, Diddy or baby," whatever she called him. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things where I think it definitely hurt her case. I think overall, though, I think this is a stain on victims. This doesn't really motivate victims to really come forward if they're going through things like this. I think definitely Diddy's character and moral propensity of who he is, that definitely is no good. But again, technically, his personal life is not on trial. It's the fact that he was RICOing and he was making money off of this and he was victimizing these individuals, but clearly the judge or the jury didn't agree that Cassie was really a victim in all this. But I think you were going to say something.
No, I guess so. Are you agreeing that Cassie is not a victim, or you still side with Cassie that she's somehow in some way a victim and should be the compensation she received, like she deserved the compensation that she received? Like, what's your take on the whole Cassie thing?
So what I'm saying is, in terms of this case motivating other real victims, quote unquote real victims, to come forward, this case definitely does not help that. I'm not saying I'm fully on Casey's side. Let me clarify. What I'm saying is it's a hit in terms of people wanting to come forward, real victims. This is definitely not going to help their case, right? Because it doesn't motivate any real victims to come forward. That's what I'm trying to say. From a macro perspective, this case was about victims. This is sort of like a Me Too version 2 with the Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. Another example. This is yet another example of this not working out for the victims. And I'm just saying, for real victims out there, this is not a motivator to get these victims to come forward. It's almost like you have to prove yourself, or you have to be a perfect model citizen to be considered a proper victim, which kind of doesn't work, right? It's sort of like a porn star saying that she was raped. I don't think anyone would believe it. They would be like, this is your profession, you chose it. But that's not fair. There's victims and there's violence in every industry. And a lot of people don't agree with your choice of work. Does not excuse or preclude you from being able to claim yourself as a victim. Does that clarify where my stance is?
Yeah, it does. I just think, it does, and of course. But I think victim, especially with regards to Cassie, is being thrown around a lot. I don't see her necessarily as a victim, and the reason I say that is because, in some instances, she initiated and fully sponsored the freak-offs without Puffy being involved. So how can you really call her a victim? The settlement, the only thing she was a victim of, in my opinion, was she was physically abused. The video recording was there. I don't think they needed to go to court for that. Now, my point about her going on as a victim is she settled, the civil suit was settled for a certain amount. Some people estimate it was like 20 million or 30 million. I don't know how much it was. Plus, she was in a decade-long relationship with this guy, participating and enabling a lot of these freak-offs. You understand what I mean? Go ahead.
I was gonna say if he is her pimp, he can just
no, but that's
no. You never watched Superfly? You didn't watch Superfly.
Well, yes,
that's what the pimps do.
Yeah, but fine.
Give me my money.
But
you know what I mean?
That's you can't lay your hands on any individual.
Okay, all right.
So that's
you're being politically
no, it's not
correct.
politically correct.
You don't want to get in trouble.
I've
watched Superfly. I know what a pimp does, and that's what a pimp does.
You can't do that.
So the question now is Diddy a pimp or not?
I mean, he didn't. It doesn't seem that. I mean, based on all the stuff that they're charging him for, and I know you're being facetious here, but he's just a freak. Now, do you charge someone for being a freak?
Well, what he got charged with, though, was of transportation. What did he get charged with again?
Yeah, the
2 counts.
Let's look at what he got charged with. Let me just see if I can Google.
Well, Stephen A. Smith is gonna talk about it in a sec. Let's just go to Stephen A. Smith.
So you have to go to him. Yeah. Okay.
And as a result, we are going to let him out. What exactly did they let him out on? Let's go over that again. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy, up to life in prison. That was the penalty. P. Diddy was found not guilty. Count number 2, sex trafficking of Cassie Ventura, his former girlfriend, that we saw him on video hitting and kicking. That drew a minimum of 15 years and a maximum of life imprisonment if convicted. He was found not guilty. Count number 4, sex trafficking of Jane, the Jane Doe, another ex-girlfriend a minimum of 15 years and a maximum of life imprisonment. He was found not guilty. For those of you who don't understand it, Jane is basically a placeholder named in the U.S. and some other legal systems when the identity of a person is withheld. Okay, so Jane, to engage in prostitution, basically same charge, two different people, the Jane Doe and Cassie Ventura. He was found guilty on both of those charges.
Okay, so he was engaged in transportation to engage in prostitution.
That is so freaking subjective.
So I'm gonna quickly.
Transportation
Really?
to engage in prostitution. So, I meet a girl, and I tell her, okay, come over to my place, and I order Uber for her to come over to my place. And then when she gets here, she tells me, okay, well, in order for me to participate in what you want me to do, I want you to pay me for my service. Did I engage in transportation to engage in prostitution knowingly? Because at the point that I called the Uber for her, I didn't know she was a prostitute. I didn't know she wanted money for it. It's very subjective. So she got to my place and demanded money, but because I wanted to fulfill my own fantasies, I said, okay, I'll pay you. Or I could have just said, you know what? I don't want to pay you. And then she can call the cops and say I tried to do something. You know what I mean? It's all I'm trying to say is that whole count is a bit subjective in my opinion. That's just in my opinion. I'm not a law expert.
All right, I did my own analysis because I was really curious. I thought maybe I had a good point here, but basically they're saying he's not a pimp.
No, obviously not. Like, so I mean, that's,
I was just doing.
Yeah.
No, I honestly wasn't sure, right? Transportation. So if you transport a woman to engage in prostitution, is that the same as pimping? So transportation for prostitution versus being a pimp. Transportation of a woman engaged in prostitution and being a pimp are related, but not always identical actions. And so basically pimping, profiting from the earnings of a sex worker, and then transportation, someone for prostitution, moving a person from place to place with the intent that they engage in prostitution at the destination, or procuring or promoting prostitution, and is a criminal offense in itself, which is kind of interesting. I didn't really know that. So I guess the question for me is, what about Hugh Hefner? I'm confused.
So that's why I said it's very
Playboy,
subjective. You remember, my point was this is a very subjective charge, because the example I gave is clear as day. Somebody, like, what's the burden? Where's the burden of proof? I didn't know what she was into. I just met her and I wanted her to come to my place, and I called her and offered her a ride. Or, okay, let's even park that.
Yeah.
I drive her to my place. That's transportation too. Right? For her a ride in my car. That's transportation. Right? So,
yeah.
I don't get it.
They completely got it wrong, and now they're trying to save face. This, and I think you'll agree, if they charged him with just this, transportation to engage in prostitution, this would have went nowhere. This would have been probably a misdemeanor. It would never have even gone to a trial. They completely lost. They fumbled the ball, and now they're just trying to pretend that they did on purpose. Oh, I meant to drop the ball. I meant to fumble. I wanted to fumble. And this is what happens, unfortunately. And it's pretty sad. I think it's a miscarriage of justice sometimes. The system is not perfect. It is what it is. But that's just my theory of what happened, or what's happening right now.
Yeah.
They're just trying to save face, at least the prosecution.
Yeah, I mean, we're pointed to all speculations. But to your point, if they tried to save face, why even go through the case in the first place? If they didn't have any evidence that was a smoking gun from the get-go, why go through all of this? So that's why you see all these conspiracy theories coming up with all kinds of theories.
Oh, I know why.
Why?
I know why. Do you not remember several months prior to them even convicting or charging him, they did the police raid.
Yes, they did.
Slandered. They put him on the news. They made him look like enemy number one. And so this is where I think, once again, our system's flawed. They knew that 12 jurors were going to decide his fate. The best way to get those 12 jurors on their side is to leak information. So the SWAT team, all those raids, the whole point is you want to paint him as an evil picture. And so when you do actually do jury selection, everybody knows about this situation. Everyone knows about P Diddy and who he
Yeah,
is.
but Kevin, sorry to cut you
He's
short.
no longer just
Sorry
a
to
rapper.
cut you short there. But why do the raids and those things in the first place? What was it that you had, or what was it that you didn't have that you wanted him to get to this
vilifying.
point? But why? You know, and I know you were joking around saying don't ask questions, but I get animated with things like this when there's really no rationale behind going after somebody for something that you don't even know that he's done or didn't do, right? Why the charade? Why the whole raid? Why all that? Just to come to this? This is something you would do
Yeah.
against a mob boss, like a smoking gun evidence, and you know that
Yeah.
this guy's gonna go to
So
jail
I
for
thi-
life. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and 100%, there's something that precipitated this. There's definitely something that precipitated. P Diddy clearly went out of his line or state and jumped out of his lane on something. I heard there were some theories on the settlement with De Leon. There are some theories on he was trying to create his own minority
Minority-owned.
minority
Yeah.
political action committee or
Oh, I thought it was
political
owned,
party. There's a lot
party?
of
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
political party. I've heard all these things. I don't know. So we're not going to really dig into it because we don't have really substantial information. But my point, what I'm trying to say, it is 100% clear. Diddy went out of his lane on something. He definitely went out of his lane on something. And again, this is a broader thing we got to talk about where in Hollywood, even we look at it with Justin Bieber right now, it seems like when you don't follow the script, or even Kanye West, when you don't follow the script, things happen to you. When you don't follow the script, things happen to you.
What is that script?
And it's
though?
kind of disappointing.
What is that script?
That's the question. That's the question of the day. And my theory is the script is if you're a ball player, stay a ball player. If you're a musician, keep playing music. If you're a ball player, keep playing basketball. Don't Kyrie Irving. Just saying. Keep playing basketball. That's all you need to do.
But
If you're a
Puffy's,
songwriter,
Puffy's
just
a
keep
business,
singing.
Yeah,
Just-
but Puffy's a business mogul. Like, I mean, he's
You're right,
he's a
but once
businessman.
again-
He has so many things. So what was
You're
the
right.
where did he overstep his?
But
Where did he overstep?
even if I hear you, but even if you're he's an entertainer. There you go. It could be as broad as that. Keep entertaining. You don't need to do anything else other than entertaining.
But he's a businessman.
Get
too.
it? This is what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can keep entertaining and make that your business. Don't make anything else your business. Again, I'm just speculating, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think it's clear he went out of his lane. On what he did, what he went out of his lane on, I don't know. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's clear. We've seen this time and time again. We've even seen it happen to Donald Trump. He went out of his lane. I think the trick, though, is that there's a big difference between having economic power and then just having money power. Or, like there's different levels. And I think, again, that's another discussion for another day. But like Elon Musk, he's done some things that were questionable, but he's Teflon because he's powerful. He doesn't just have money power, he has economic power. And I think this is the trick. I don't know if P. Diddy, Kanye, Justin Bieber, all these people, Bill Cosby, I don't think they have economic power. I think they have money power, like, you know what I mean? But not economic power. And again, we could talk what that means. Hopefully you don't ask me the question.
I
what it
was
means,
going to
but-
ask you because when you brought up Elon Musk, you know that's a sensitive topic with us, right? I don't believe Elon Musk has any kind of economic power because it threatens to deport him.
Are you crazy?
Hold on.
Are you crazy?
Kev, let's switch.
Dude.
Let's switch for a bit.
He owns.
Hold
Listen,
on.
he owns companies. He owns
let's-
companies.
Let's switch for a bit. Let's switch for a bit here. He has money, right? He does not have economic power, and I'll tell you why. He can get kicked out of
disagree.
America. Okay. Do you know that he can get kicked out of America today if they wanted to really do that?
Can his companies get kicked out of America? Can his
No,
companies get kicked out
but
of
he
America?
can get kicked out, and he can get.
He owns those companies, brother.
Hold on. Yes, he owns those companies, but he can
He
get.
owns Starlink. He owns Tesla. He owns Twitter.
Hold on. But if he goes to jail or he gets kicked out of America, Where does that lie? They have to appoint new heads. Do you know how many cases are against him? The SEC cases are against Elon Musk. What if he gets convicted on any one of
Yeah.
them? He doesn't have economic power. The way you see. Okay, sorry. Let me take
I
that
think
back.
he does.
Let me take that back. He has financial power, and that could translate to economics in the sense of owning things. But I don't think he has the power that I'm looking at from if you were to talk about political power, influence, the way you think he does. He has the business
I think
power and
he.
the influence politics, but it gets to a certain point, and I think he's seeing that now, knowing where he is with the battle he's having with Donald Trump. There's a clear delineation going on right now to say, okay, yeah, you got the money, you got me in here, but now I have the power, and I can mess you up. And I think that's what's going on now. Because if they really want to mess him up, they can just. There's so many things. He's no longer a citizen of the U.S.
No,
Boom,
if
he's
I
out.
know, knowing how, and knowing Trump is all about winners, and I'm pretty sure if you were right and he didn't have the economic power, Trump would have deported him a long time ago. But you can't. It's not that easy with an
But
Elon.
he
All I'm
said,
trying to say is I'm just trying to bifurcate.
but he said it though.
I'm just trying to
Did you see
bifurcate
Trump's
the
tweet
difference.
about
Okay,
him?
saying and doing are saying and yeah, I heard that. Saying and
Okay.
doing are two different things. What I'm just trying to say is there's a big difference between P Diddy, who has a lot of money, and Elon Musk, who has a lot of money and owns many companies that have lots of money, right? So P Diddy is no different than a Kanye West or a Jay-Z. They have money, but it comes from certain things, and it's really their partnerships. Their partnerships is what makes them rich.
That I
Elon
agree with.
Musk has no partnerships. He is just ridiculously rich because of his companies. There's a big difference. P
That I
Diddy
agree
doesn't
with.
have companies and this company and that. No, he has partnerships, strategic partnerships that increase his valuation. Kanye West had the exact same thing. It was Adidas that made him a billionaire. He wasn't a billionaire on his own. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure he's probably close. Hopefully his sales and records and stream numbers are doing amazing. But the bottom line is there's a big difference between economic power, or at least my theory of economic power, where you own companies and those companies make money. And then you, as a result, are making money off those companies. But if you go to jail, those companies still exist. And those companies will still thrive. Versus at P. Diddy, if he went to jail for 15 years, everything's done. His partnerships are dried up. The money will eventually dry up. Everything, other than maybe some investments and stocks. But the trick is, the companies that own those stocks, they can take his money and they can give him back a check. Say, here, we don't want your money no more. Here you go. Here's your $2 billion or $3 billion. We no longer want to have your money invested in our companies. That's the difference. You can't do that with Elon. You cannot do that with Starlink. He owns
Okay.
Starlink. He
So
owns Twitter.
let me
And
correct
so I think
myself.
economic power is.
Let me correct myself here. So I think I was conflating two things when you said economic power. And now that you explained it, I get it. Yes, he does have economic power, way more than P. Diddy's and Jay-Z and Kanye West. Yes, because he's built companies. He has
The
a lot of
music
companies.
industry.
Yes, his companies are employing and far-reaching than any of these guys. Yes, I agree to that. Where I was drawing the delineation is that even though he has economic power, he doesn't have political power the way he thinks he does. And I think that's where I was trying to make that distinction. Because economic power doesn't necessarily translate to political power. Because to my point earlier, he can get deported regardless. Or they can find something to put him in jail. So yes, I agree to that. But political power, he doesn't have that. If Trump just wakes up tomorrow morning and just says, you know what, dude, this guy's getting deported, he's out of there. His companies will remain, to your point, but he's no longer in the U.S. He's not a citizen. But anyways, I digress.
So I just looked it up, and so can Elon Musk be deported by Trump? So Elon Musk's citizenship status is he is a naturalized U.S. citizen. He became U.S. citizen in 2002 after immigrating from South Africa via Canada. Interesting.
Yeah, he has
Musk
Canadian
also holds
roots.
citizenship in Canada as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Donald Trump recently stated he would have to take a look at possibility of deporting Elon following the public feud. The comments were made in response to Musk's criticism of Trump's legislative agenda. Is deportation legally possible? Musk is a naturalized U.S. citizen. Answer, no, not directly. U.S. citizens cannot be deported unless their citizenship is revoked. So, Musk's citizenship is revoked, so denaturalized. Yes, in theory. Only possible if the government proves Musk obtained citizenship by fraud or misrepresentation. So they'd have to show that he did it by fraud or misrepresentation.
Kev, you and I know that is very possible. My thought
process is...
That is very possible. I wasn't born in Canada.
No, but what...
So I know that if the Canadian government tomorrow says, you know what, we're going to revoke all the naturalized citizens of Canada, there's nothing I can do about it. But my son, who was born in Canada, they can't do that to him. Regardless of what laws they can... I'm not saying it will happen, but is it probable? No. But is it possible? Yes. Two different things. Is it probable that you get deported? No. Or get denaturalized? No. That's anything's possible as long as
anything's possible. Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
So that's all I'm saying.
No, anything's possible. I'm just saying, from what I just read, it's not as simple as what you just kind of alluded to. You're saying, hey, Trump said it might happen. It would be very hard for Trump to do that. That's all. Yes. But
fair enough.
Yeah, but we're kind of jumping. We're getting off topic. But I think ultimately the Rico case, it's unfortunate they just overreached. And I think that's really what happened here. And it's sad. I guess my other question to you is, what happens now? Like, how do you think the music industry is going to react? Is this going to have a positive effect on the music industry? Is it going to have a negative effect on the music industry? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it would have any effect at all, because you have to remember Puffy hasn't been involved in the music industry for a number of years now. He's only been involved from a business side of things for the most part. I think
not really. No, he's been...
How many Bad Boy artists
he doesn't make
are
his
out
own
there?
music.
Yeah, but how many Bad Boy artists?
No, but he does a lot of He does a lot. All right, I'll do it. He did a lot of collaborations. Yeah, do a quick search.
There's a lot. He probably has a few artists, but I don't know if back in the day the way Bad Boy music was what really brought him to the limelight and making songs and music all over. Like they had top charts and all that. The music was topping the charts. I don't think it would affect the music industry, either positively or negatively. I don't think so.
Okay. So real quickly, his most recent P Diddy music collaboration is the track Lonely Roads Still Go to Sunshine, which features Kanye West, ironically, Kanye's daughter, North, Diddy's son, King Combs, and Yeezy artist Jasmine Williams. The song was reportedly released by Kanye West in March of 2025.
How many streams?
Via since a deleted post, the track opens with a phone conversation between Ye and Diddy and include vocal contributions from the artist's children. I don't know. I'm just going by what... Because the question was, you were saying that he wasn't recently active in the music industry. Clearly he is. But to answer your question...
Dude, man.
I think I
didn't say he wasn't active. What? I'm saying he's not influenced in the music industry, because that was your question. Okay, fine.
I said, how would he...
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I thought that's what you alluded to. You know, he doesn't do music anymore. He does more philanthropy. Not philanthropy.
Yeah, he's not big on the charts.
That's right.
He's not. But even that song that you quoted right now that you Googled, it's not a big song on the charts. I've never heard of it. I don't think you have.
Yeah.
But I was pulled exactly.
Yeah,
so that's the point. Like,
my point is he's still doing music. He's still doing. That's all I was.
Fine. You win the argument, Kevin. Yes, he's doing music. He's doing music. Yeah, he's doing music. He's doing.
I'm not trying to win an argument.
You are. That's clearly what you're trying to win the argument. Okay, you win. He's doing music. Yes, he's into music.
I don't care. Okay. So in my thought process is, I see it as both. I think in one respect, in the hip hop culture, it's all about street cred. You know what I mean? Like, he beat a Rico case. The fact that he beat a Rico case, like, that's street cred right there. Like, you beat a Rico case. Like, how many people beat a Rico case? I would say the Rico cases, 90% winning. Like, 90% the prosecution wins in a Rico, because it's so blanket, it's so subjective, it's so broad. That's the problem with Rico. That's why it was meant for mobsters and stuff. So the fact that he won that, and many people don't win it, they usually get charged on Rico, that he has mad street cred. And so I think that's going to definitely affect the music industry. That's going to give him some clout, and I think it's going to kind of vindicate his status in the music industry. He didn't snitch. He kept quiet. Obviously, the whole gay stuff might be a challenge, but the reality, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, real quick.
No. I was just laughing because I don't think that if I were him, or if he had advisors, he should just go into seclusion or reclusion or whatever the case may be, and just be quiet, because there's no way he can come up and say he beat the Rico case and still think he has street cred. If he was shot or something, yeah, I could say, yeah, he's probably has some street cred. But the reason he beat the Rico case is because there was no case to start with. So if he was going to use that,
that's an optics thing.
Okay, that's
fair. Optics.
Fair point.
Jai.
Fair
that's
point.
optics. That's optics. Like,
yes, no, I agree. It's
listen,
optics.
The government, FBI, CEI, the whole government of the United States came at you, and you beat that. Are you crazy?
Really
like,
no
that
case
is
to start
mad. This
with.
is why This is why Donald Trump got the black vote. I'm being honest, man. This is why he got, because they saw what they were doing to this man. They were destroying this man. They were trying to charge him on this and charge him on that. And this man was just dodging them like the Matrix.
Maybe
sympathy.
Sympathy, yes. Sympathy. He'll get sympathy, but I don't know that he'll get street cred. Especially after hearing about all his escapades.
You clearly haven't been listening. You clearly have not been listening to hip hop for the last 20, 30 years. You clearly have not.
Street cred from freak off parties and peeing in people's mouths? God. Come on. That's
It's not that. It's not.
Okay.
No, it's not about that. You have the Attorney General. That's the top cop, and then you have the federal government, the federal police, and then you have the local municipal. My point is, the highest of the highest cops came after him, and he's only getting 2 years or whatever they charge him, or whatever he eventually gets. My point is, he was looking at life. Now he's down to what, 3 or 4 years? Like, dude, that is crazy.
There's no stress.
Just even look at Future. Sorry, no, Thug Club. Thug, what's his name?
Young Thug?
The guy that just got off. Young Thug, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as soon as he came back home, Drake gave him $1 million. He got this. He's back in the studio. It's just street cred. You don't understand. It's just when you beat the cops, that's everything. Even O.J. Simpson. People still love the fact that he beat the system.
No, but that's okay. Maybe
you don't remember that with
maybe
O.J.?
Maybe your definition of street cred and the way you phrased it as to how it would influence his music to all over the place. I don't know would be the case, and maybe that's what you were saying, or maybe I misinterpreted what you were saying. But to me, street cred is like, okay, you got shot, now you're back. But if there were real charges to start with, and that's if you didn't have the other sides that came with all of your charges, which is freak offs and parties and baby oil and all that stuff. That's not going to give you street cred. People are still going to look at you as a freak, and I think that's why I said when he comes out and beats all of these charges and he gets back home, just go in reclusion. Just be quiet. Just do your own thing. Just stay in business. Don't come out and say you want to start singing or rapping. Just stay in your house and make your money. That's it. Don't try to be a rapper or a gangster or whatever the case may be. Don't compare yourself to Young Thug. Let me put it that way.
I was just giving an example of, at the end of the day, everyone loved when Young Thug came home. They were just happy because the whole idea is that there's been so much minority injustice. And I think everyone will agree, like, let's use OJ as an example. We all know OJ, right, what he did. But the point is the fact that he got off, because you've heard, I don't know if you remember Emmett Till. I don't know if you ever heard of the story of Emmett Till.
They beat up
he was
the kid.
That's right. and nobody was ever charged. Ridiculous. Nobody was charged, yet the man, his eye socket was pulled out of his eye. He was thrown into the water,
Gruesome.
and all because of some lady that said something. So the point is, people don't necessarily can agree with P Diddy, but the fact that once again a minority beat the system, that's really what it's about. So that's what I'm talking about with respect to street cred. There's so much injustice happening. Sometimes people just want the underdog to win. It was everything, all the evidence was stacked against him. So I don't think a lot of people agree with P Diddy. I think his personal life is disgusting, but that's not what's on trial. And so the point is, everything was against him. He was the underdog, and he beat the system. Same thing with Trump. They made him an underdog when they're putting him through all these trials. It was ridiculous. Everything's coming out of the woodwork. This, that, all this stuff. You're throwing it at him. And so that's what I look at. But you know what? At the end of the day, I try to be fair. So I did my chat GPT. Does beating the Rico case give P Diddy street cred? Now again, everybody, this is a AI, but basically the AI said, in summary, beating the Rico case does not enhance P Diddy's street credibility. If anything, the trial and his revelations have damaged his standing in the industry and the public eye. So clearly AI does agree with Jai. I still think he gets street cred, but I will concede. I'm trying to be honest, right? I try to be transparent.
From perspective of the street cred, will he garner sympathy? Yes. He's garnered a lot of sympathy from this because people feel that he was wrongfully, well, not wrongfully, but people feel he was just being subjected to all of this because of his skin color. People think of other reasons, but for the most part, he's garnered a lot of sympathy because they don't think he's fair.
Not staying in his lane, theoretically.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
but when when you mention that whole thing about street cred and his music, I don't know that it will make his album sell. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, if he comes up with an album, I don't think it would go either way because people are still gonna think of him as, oh, that baby oil guy. And I'm not listening to that guy's music. You know what I mean? Though.
And this is why I disagree with you again, respectfully. It seems like everybody in the industry knew what P Diddy was doing. I think everybody knew it, and it was just something where, hey, you know what? As long as you are making me money or this is not blowing back on me, what do I care? I think homosexuality is rampant in a lot of industries that we're not aware of. It's more something that you're either in it and you know about it. And so I think this is going to be neither here nor there. I think some people that are about public opinion, they're going to keep away from him because they don't want to be associated now that it's in the light. But I think the way that people were portrayed, like, it seemed like everybody knew about these P Diddy parties. Everybody knew about it. It wasn't it was sort of like a hidden secret, or hiding in plain sight. So now that the open secret's out, then I can see some really very iffy people, not necessarily iffy people, but people that are really concerned about their image. They will stay away. So where maybe Bill Clinton might have went to a whites party or a white event, he ain't going no more. J-Lo, she ain't going no more. It's more people like that are low level, that just still need that clout that P Diddy might have, what little clout he does have. So I don't know. I look at it like that.
The worst case scenario is that he could be sentenced to 10 years in prison for each, okay? And that he could face up to 20 years. Everybody that I've spoken to, and I'm about to bring you two legal experts to the slim possibility that he'll get to be anything from 1 to 2 to 3 years in prison, or maybe it's just community service and a stiff fine. That's it.
So I guess the question now becomes, we were going into this whole thing about victimhood and all, and I think you raised the point about the true victims and going to be scared to come forward. He clearly did something that was wrong, visible to everyone's eyes, by laying hands on Cassie. If eventually he gets off free from this, like he doesn't go to jail at all, what does that say to the victims of domestic violence out there, or women who go through this domestic violence? He doesn't go to jail. But if he does go to jail, does it help the victims to come forward more, right? Given that Cassie took money to start with. So it's one of those catch-22s. Like, what's your take on that? How does that affect victims of domestic violence?
Let's say John watched his son get killed by Peter, and he no longer has his son. His son's gone. And then because of a technicality, Peter, the one that killed John's son, gets 1 year in prison. How would you feel if that was you, Jai? That was your son. And now because of a technicality, you now have to watch this person go to jail for 1 year and then he's scot-free. That's what I think a lot of victims, real victims, are looking at this case.
The reason I threw that question out there is because that word is, and then I think we went back to, I'll go back to our conversation about it, where I said the word victim is being thrown around a lot. Because when you look at the victims, the quote unquote victim in this case, the main witness, Cassie, she took money. Right? She took money. So is the message that you can go through abuse, quote unquote, as long as you're paid, it's fine. Versus people who are being abused and they report it, whether they get paid or not, the perpetrator gets put in jail. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like, what is the message to society at this point? Settle or don't settle, and these are your chances. Maybe the person will go to jail or not, because right now we don't know if P Diddy is going to go to jail, but we do know that Cassie got money. So what's the message of sending to young girls?
I'll speak on that.
Yeah.
Through technicalities of back in the days, they didn't have DNA to swab. They didn't have sophisticated forensics with respect to blood and urine. So you got to remember that we're limited by our technology. And then there's also her word versus his word. What she said, he said. So what I'm saying is sometimes it comes down to intermination, prosecution, or maybe the lawyer on the other side might go to that person and say, look, I don't know if you were a victim or not, but you know what? This person is willing to give you $10 million. You take it, shut up. Or you can go to court, but I'm telling you, a lot of this is circumstantial. You're more likely not going to get anything. Because if we go to court, we're obviously not going to give you anything. But we can settle out of court, and then you can get $10 million. So you choose what you want to do. Do you want to keep living in this 2-bed apartment and also paying for a high-end lawyer to defend yourself in a trial? Or take this $2 million. This is probably the best you're going to get, little lady, and go on about your business. That's the problem, right? So I think that's what a lot of victims might be faced with. And so is it fair? No, it's not. Did they take it? And because they take it legally, it means that they agreed, but if you look at the scenario, that really wasn't it. At the end of the day, they didn't have enough money for the proper lawyer, which is a flaw in our system. It shouldn't matter what kind of lawyer you have, but we all know if you can afford the $10,000 an hour lawyers, you are most likely going to get off. It's sad, but that's how our system is. Even bail. Bail? The concept of bail is you pay a certain amount of money to get out of jail before before your hearing. How is that even fair? That means that all rich people can make bail. Versus someone that's dirt poor, they may be innocent, but they still hold them, but they can't make the bail. They can't pay their own bail. They have to stay in jail. It is completely unfair. It serves the rich. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm looking at it from that perspective with respect to that poor girl that's been truly victimized, and because of circumstantial evidence, they don't have a good lawyer, they can only afford a public defendant, and you have this $10,000 an hour lawyer telling you straight up, take this money, this is your best option. Look at your history, look at your past. You know, you're with this artist, this person. We have your friends that are against you, that are not the best character witnesses. So that type of stuff can really impact somebody in their decision making of taking money.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he was bail. I mean, I knew that his bail was revoked. To your point about rich people can always bail themselves out, his bail request was denied, and his sentencing is not until October. So it's almost, and that even leads to another question is, why was his bail denied?
So, you know why it was denied?
Why? Because of
You
the
know why it
sex
was
trafficking
denied?
thing?
I was reading about this.
Okay. Why was it denied?
No. So this is where the lawyers his lawyers made a mistake, but it was probably what saved them. So basically, their whole premise in their closing statement was, yes, Diddy is a violent person, but his violence and who he is personally is not on trial.
They said
This is
that
about
in the
Rico.
closing argument?
Rico is a yes, that's right. Yeah, or maybe not. I don't know the closing arguments, but either way, they mentioned it. I don't need to look it up because I'm positive it happened. But I don't know if it was the closing arguments. But the point is, they made
mentioned
that
it.
statement. They made a statement that they mentioned it. Thank you. He is violent. However, his violence is what's not in trial. Who he is as a person is not what's in trial. It is the Rico, and that's what they are trying to dismiss that because that's the bigger offense. If he got, they found him guilty on Rico, that's it. Doesn't matter about the trafficking and transportation. That's nothing.
Why did they
Rico,
just? Why did they
that's
just?
life
say-
in prison?
Why did they
mandatory,
just say, okay, yes, he got mad once and acted upon it, but why did they use the word violent? That's pretty deep for them to say he's a violent person.
Again, it's how the system is, right? The whole idea is you want to cap. It's all about getting into logic and understanding what the jury understands, and so beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's the burden of proof. It's really, really high. So the whole idea is that they're like, this guy is a bad man, but that's not what's on trial.
That's not what's on trial.
One thing is you got to really ask yourself if you're really a victim. But like Gloria Allright, I've heard how she just convinces all these women, and sometimes I think these women need to ask themselves, what are these people getting for me? What are these people getting out of it where they all of a sudden are telling me to testify after something that happened to me 20, 30 years ago?
Money.
And I think sometimes these victims...
Money. I'm talking about Gloria Allred. I'm talking about her.
Here's why
Gloria Allred. Money.
But there's more things to money. Like now Cassie has to relive this. She's moved on. I'm pretty sure her life was just normal. She had her husband. She had her child. Now for the next at least year, you're going to be ridiculed. You're going to have to go through this. You're going to have to go through that. I just think you're right, but is money everything? Maybe that's another discussion, right? Like, I think sometimes these lawyers are slimy and they convince them. They convince them like this, you're doing the work of God and you're doing the work of all these victims that couldn't speak up for themselves. I think sometimes you're placating on people's sense and morality. And I think it's sad because now Cassie has to deal with this for the rest of her life. At least without knowing, she could have lived her life moving on, having peace that, you know what, it is what it is. I got paid and now you can move on. Now she's looked at as a hoe. She's looked at as she's the one that orchestrated the freaks. Her husband, her husband is still with her. Mad respect to him.
Sorry, Kevin. Sorry to cut you short. She's not being looked at as as the one that, what was the word you used, that initiated the, no, you said she's not being looked at as
I think so. Have you watched, did you listen to some of those text messages?
Yes, I did. She initiated.
Wow, she's freaky.
Yeah, that's what okay. I was agreeing with you that she initiated some of those things. Like some of the text messages, the messages she sent were initiating some of those things. She actually started some of those parties without Puffy's involvement.
Yeah, so all I'm just trying to say is people are gonna look at her as a hoe. Before this, all I knew about Cassie was her music. That's all I knew about her.
I know.
And she lived her life, and she was this person, and now all of a sudden, you are now looked at this. It's like, if this was all about money, is it worth it? Is this really worth it? Now, to the real victims, 100% always fight for your rights, 100%. But this is where I think, like I said, the Gloria Allrights and these slimy lawyers, they convince these victims to think, these non-victims, to think that they're victims. And I think this is the injustice. Same thing with Bill Cosby. All these things, don't get me wrong, Bill Cosby is a slimy dude too. But just because you're a slimy person, that means that all of a sudden all your work, all your philanthropy, all of the things that you did to inspire a generation, that goes away? So how is it President of the United States now a role model? We all know what he did, yet for some reason it seems to pass him by. So this is the problem that I see with these people rounding up these so-called victims. So if you're not a real victim, don't get sucked into these lawyers trying to tell you, oh, you're doing this and you're doing this for women around the world. I think it's ridiculous. You're going to become a Cassie. You're going to become all these, or become another victim that never really won in court, and now you're just bringing up 20-year-old stuff. It's silly. I'm not saying these people are innocent. I'm not siding with Bill Cosby. I'm not siding with P Diddy. But I think 10 years? 10 years? Really? Oh my God. A 10-year-old video. Come on. Like, what are we doing here?
Well,
really? You know, like, I don't know. Like, do you see what I'm saying, Jai? Like,
yeah, no.
10 years ago.
But here's the thing, though.
This is the only evidence that you have. Like,
money makes the world go around. I remember I asked
crazy.
that question from when we started this discussion is why, what was the motive behind all of this? All the millions of dollars they spent, why? What was the rationale behind this? Raiding his house, who stands to gain from this? Because I always look at the perspective of follow the money. Who's gaining from this? Who's making money off of this? It's definitely not the people in the courtrooms or the people who they call to the witness stands or even P. Diddy, or maybe Cassie made money, but I don't think she was colluding to be part of this to start with. But who is really making the money in all of this? That's the real question, because it makes no sense. No strong case against him to start with. It's just a whole thing, just making a show out of it. It was almost like a Hollywood movie when they raided his house. And it's like, oh, P. Diddy's going to jail. But there was no smoking gun. And that video for Cassie is what really got him convicted. If that video of Cassie wasn't available, I don't know that he would have been convicted of any of those crimes. But I'm not an expert.
yeah,
That's just
no,
my
you're
opinion.
right. You're right. I think at the end of the day, the raids were, like I said, a show. People are public opinion is huge. And I think the feds were trying to leverage the fact that they can do public opinion and get this stuff on camera, get this stuff in the news. And that's why I think they overreached. I think that's why they felt they could do the RICO, because they had all this mounting so-called footage of this person being portrayed as a villain. How many Netflix have you seen? The Downfall of Diddy. Diddy's Done. The Bad Boy Diddler. All these videos came out, right? Like Kanye got like one or two, right?
Or
You know what I
Diddy.
mean? But they went ham on Diddy. They went all out. And so I think that's what the prosecution banked on. There's no way a jury is not aware of this by this time. And so they were so confident. And this is what happens. Icarus, you fly too close to the sun, you get burned. You fly too low, you drown. And so they just missed it. They missed the mark on this. It's disappointing. But I think the bigger thing and the more serious thing is I feel that they are trying to control certain industries. And I think this is once again a bigger macro thing where if you stay out of your, if you do not stay in your lane, this is what will happen. If you stay in your lane and you don't deal with things outside of your lane, you're fine. Make as much money as you want. But if you decide to get out of your lane, we're going to teach you who's really in control here. So yes, you may have won the war, but make no mistake, we brought this war to you and we'll bring it to you again if we have to. If we can get you one time, we can get you again, right? It's like the mafia. You know what I mean? They'll come into your house and you won't even you'll be like, how'd you get up in here?
Yeah.
If we can get in here once, we can get in here again. We'll let you live, but just watch yourself. So it's scary. It's really, really scary. So let's see here. So is it true Diago owes P. Diddy $2 billion? No credible evidence, right? And it looks like Diageo already paid him $1 billion.
But that's over the course of the years, not just $1 billion settlement though. Just to clarify that, it's close to $1 billion over the course of when he signed the deal between, whenever he signed it and
But this is what I was gonna say. I'm thinking maybe this is a tactic where they settled. But now, given the lawsuit and how long his drain dried out, I'm sure he spent $1 billion on legal fees. That could be it. You know what I mean? Like maybe this is why this all came to a head, right? Because they paid him out. They clearly paid him out. But then how do you get that money back or not get it back as long as he doesn't have it? And now he's had to pay and defend himself for years or months. with these high expensive lawyers. So it could be something like that, sort of like a kind of subterfuge type of
Yeah, they just
chess
want him
move.
to
I mean,
suffer for. They can't get the money from him,
yeah,
but
it could be.
they can make him spend the money
That's
on
right.
means that are, you
Exactly.
know, not necessarily beneficial to him or his family. Well, it's kind of
Yeah.
beneficial, but you know what
Yeah.
I mean. Like it's not coming
So
back to him and his family.
exactly, exactly. It's sort of like they tax the poor, they tax the middle class the most, but then when you're super duper rich, you get everything for free.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. You can now afford it, but now because you have this status and you're so rich and they want you there, you now get everything for free. It's sort of the opposite here. So they awarded him, but now they know that they can potentially get him on a racketeering charge. That's probably the most expensive type of charge to defend against.
Mhm.
And so if we can't have it, you can't have it. You know, it's I wouldn't put it past people. There's a lot of hate in this world, but reason why we brought this is there's a couple of things, a couple of rumors going around about people owe Diddy billions of dollars, and they're using this as a reason. It's called a morality clause, actually, and the theory, or at least I don't know the law exactly. Maybe I'll just quickly Google it. The thought process is if you lose a settlement to a company or whatever, if that company is deemed unfit or doesn't adhere to morality, that money that is paid, that should be paid out to them, can be forfeited or delayed because their conduct is unbecoming. So I think that's basically it. What are your thoughts, Jai?
No, I'm
While
just
I
saying though,
type this in.
the whole sex trafficking thing, I don't really get that. Coercing a person into commercial sexual, I think the word was commercial sexual acts or something like that. And did he do that? Like, I mean, they were willing participants for the most part and they were paid. Okay, you could say, yeah, he was paying against their will. There was no fraud where he said he would pay them something and didn't pay them. The RICO was just ridiculous. Those were frivolous charges from the get-go and still are. So I'm glad that the jury found him not guilty of those charges.
Yeah, and real quickly, I just Googled it, and it looks like even my theory of what I was saying doesn't look like it holds weight. Even the morality clause would not stop him from not getting his $2 billion, but they do say if you're a celebrity and you have endorsements, then yes, they may include one to protect the brand reputation, and thus hold money or withhold winnings because of that. I don't know if it's possible because remember P Diddy represented Ciroc and he represented DeLeon, which are brands of
so they can hold off
Diageo.
Royalties from him because
That's right.
because
Exactly,
basically it's a
potentially.
reputation if he's going through lawsuits and
That's
stuff, right? Gotcha. Those must have been clauses
So
in the
it
contract
would.
at some
So
point.
that would. So again, we're only speculating theory here because everyone keeps talking
speculating.
about this $2 billion that's kind of trending. But that could be it. They could try to leverage the fact that now he's Rico and he's this bad person, and so he's now hurting the brand. But again, all this is speculative, and it also doesn't align with what we were saying earlier, where he settled out of court. So basically, Ciroc, they were partner ownerships originally. Ciroc and DeLeon were partnerships with P. Diddy and Diageo. From the settlement, P. Diddy took his money, and now Diageo completely owns these brands. So that would actually not play into this because the idea is that you're part of that brand, you're a partnership with that company, and so due to morality clauses and you winning a settlement, we're now going to withhold your money because we're going to countersue you for ruining our brand. So it kind of doesn't hold weight. But I really praise the jury. They didn't get sucked into this crap of, wait a minute, I thought Rico was for the mob. Who else isn't? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what they're thinking. Like, what? I watched Sopranos. I watched this. Like, I thought Rico was about mobs and profiting. This is just a freaky dude, one person. This doesn't make a lot of sense. You know what I mean? My point, what I'm trying to say is, I'm really happy that people are discerning from signals and noises. I think this is a big thing in our culture, a big thing in society with social media. I can't even tell what's fake and what's real anymore. And so understanding what are noises versus signals are important. And if for anyone doesn't understand, it's the signals that are important. The noise are distractions. And RICO cases, 90% success. And I think that's what a lot of lawyers are looking at. So the fact that they hit him with a RICO, given the jury definitely is a winner in this case.
Yeah, I was just gonna say something pretty funny. I'm like, what's up with Stephen A. on the guns, man? Like bringing out his muscle. I'm just like, watch. I'm like, what's going on with this? I guess because you're so used to seeing Stephen A. in a suit, and to see him in like a sleeveless top, it's like, Stephen A. bro, love you, brother. What are you trying to do? I mean, love you, no Diddy.
Yeah. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on Stephen A. Smith. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't. Just like how you like PDB sometimes and you don't, and Gary Vee sometimes and you don't.
Yeah.
But
PBD rubbed me the wrong way when they started talking bad about Canada. Despite when this whole 51st state thing came, and Stephen A. I have like to yourself, like you. Sorry, I have a love-hate relationship. I don't agree with everything he says, and I think he's okay with that. But I respect him. I respect his craft. He's one of the best. You can't take that away from him.
All right, guys. So I think we covered as much as we can. Our perspectives might be a little skewed, but at the end of the day, this is debate, and you guys give us your thoughts. If we miss an angle, if you agree, disagree, let us know. We value the feedback. Please like and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithms and things like that. Keeps us doing this content going. We're both unemployed right now, so.
What? No, we're not.
I'm just joking. Jack's like, what? Wait. Anyways, well, we're not unemployed. Give us love, all right?
Let's cut that part out. Yes, we need you to like and subscribe so we can.
All right, guys. It's been a pleasure. Have a good one. Take care. God bless.
God bless.